All right, good evening, everyone. Just want to welcome you to our Wednesday night service. I hope that there's not too much background noise. I forgot to shut off the AC and all of our equipment that makes it nice and cool in our house. Makes it bearable, livable even. And so, my name is Arthur Atakni, Associate Pastor for Cushing Indian Baptist Church. And again, I want to thank you for joining us on our Wednesday night Bible service. Hopefully we get back into church with Wednesday night. You know, we have gotten into the routine again of going to church on Sunday. And although, you know, there have been people that have joined us, it's still kind of iffy, right? It's still there's a little bit anxiety to get out there and get amongst the crowd. But we take our precautions, we've been vaccinated, and we welcome you. And hopefully we start doing that with Wednesday night service as well. Again, getting back into routine of things. What people might say are new normal, but continuing on through this time of pandemic and change. And so what I wanted to touch on a little bit tonight is continuing on in our Bible study. We were gone a couple of Sundays ago, so we're a little bit behind in the season, trying to get caught up in the sessions. And go ahead and jump into lesson 2, since we were supposed to do lesson 2 last Sunday, but I redid lesson 1. I didn't know that somebody had already taken care of it, so that, you know, we'll go ahead and get right back on track with next weekend and be on lesson 3, or session 3, sorry. So lesson 2 starts in chapter 14 of Job. And when we think about what this lesson is about, we want to think about the Bible study author's suggestion is thinking about where you might go, or where we might go collectively together when we are facing, it says, where do people often seek comfort when they're distraught, right? Where do we go to find that peace? And obviously, as believers, we want to turn to God. But where do most people, not talking spiritually, not talking about when we're in church and all that type of stuff, but where do we go for that comfort? Think about that when we're reading this, when we're going to look at what Job is going through. And so this time, from the first lesson to this lesson, Job has seen a drastic change in his life. He's lost everything that he has come to know. And then through that, he has some questions, right? But not only is he questioning maybe what's going on, why it's going on, he has some friends come and join him. And to tell you the truth, we call them his friends, we call them his close people that he might respect and come to know, probably a shoulder to lean on during hard times. They are challenging him, right? And they're having this, I wouldn't say back and forth, because it's not a back and forth, but it's they're not there like what we're trying to focus on for comfort, right? They're kind of saying that he brought this on himself. He should repent of what he has done. But if you remember back to the conversation again, God chose him for this test because he was unlike anyone else on earth. He was his faithful servant. And so picking up in 14 verse 1, it says, anyone born of woman is short of days and full of trouble. He blossoms like a flower, then withers. He flees like a shadow and does not last. Do you really take notice of one like this? Will you bring me into judgment against you? Who can produce something pure from what is impure? Now, remember that. It says no one. Job is acknowledging that, no one. Since a person's days are determined and the number of his months depends on you, And since you have set limits he cannot pass, look away from him and let him rest, so that he can enjoy his day like a hired worker. Now, when we're seeing that, first of all, Job is relating to something that we can kind of grasp a hold of, a concept, right? It says right here at the beginning, anyone born of woman is short of days and full of trouble. He blossoms like a flower, right? Like a flower. He's not saying that we're different than plants that are planted in the ground. And that's important, because if you catch that, it's a reference to God's creation, God's beauty, God's things that he has shown us, right? That he likes, because he, again, there's references to how beautiful some of this stuff is. And even today, we look at some of God's creation and we wonder how it came to be. Only God could have created that, right? And so, let's see here. Lost my spot on the... Okay, so right there on verse... What is it? Verse 4. Who can produce something pure from what is impure? Think about that right there, and think about a similar example that is brought to us throughout the Bible. How many times does the Bible reference the beauty that God has put into nature, and then try to tie it to a situation or something that we can learn from or gain from? There is a number of references, right, to the it says throughout the Bible, plants are used as illustrations and imagery for the state of one's relationship with God. Think about your favorite one. Think about that and maybe share with others. Maybe, tell somebody or something like that. But also let us know in the comments, and leave a comment about what's your favorite reference to plants and things in nature as illustration, as imagery that God shows us that what he's created is beautiful. And my favorite one is when we talk about the mustard seed in Matthew chapter 17. It's a little bit through the chapter, but it talks about how small and insignificant something may be looked upon, right? But that's how much faith it takes to be able to trust God and be able to experience his goodness. If you have that much faith, it can begin to grow. It can begin to turn into something beautiful. Again, we talk about those plants, and they don't come from even us as humans. We don't come from something that's really, really noticeable, right? With our own eyes, we can't see the cells that make up an embryo, an infant, a toddler, an adult, a child. We can't see those minute cells. And the same way goes for maybe a tree, a seed that turns into a sapling, that turns into something gigantic, like the forest over on the West Coast, right? Those trees are enormous. We went to Nashville, and when I was driving around there, I think that it's safe to say some of our wood comes from that area, because I seen some places where they may have been logging and stuff like that. But those trees are huge. They're like, I would say 100, maybe 150 feet tall, and they're just straight up. There's like hardly any branches, and the branches that come off are just a few feet or whatever. I think they're pines, or I'm not a tree, I'm not an arborist or anything like that. I have to ask Chris, but that comes from a tiny seed, right? And that's what was being used as an illustration. Again, God's creation, his plants, was being used as an illustration, because the faith of a mustard seed can grow and can turn into something good. And that's what Job is trying to show here. He's showing that our days are numbered. Our time is a small fraction of time, and we're going to get into it here. What he's getting ready to describe. But think about that and share with us your favorite illustration about what's going on. And so he's going to go in here. And he's already asked a couple questions, but we're going to read on here. It says, there is hope for a tree. If it is cut down, it will sprout again, and its shoots will not die. If its roots grow in the ground, or if its roots grow old in the ground and its stump starts to die in the soil, the scent of water makes it thrive and produces twigs like a sapling. You see, it isn't necessarily gone. And that's why most of the time when tree workers and arborists and those people that take care of these things, they have to rip that out of the ground. They have to grind it down. They have to actually remove it from the earth, because once it's cut down, it's not dead. It's not dead until what Job is trying to say here, until it's been uprooted. But a person dies and fades away. He breathes his last. Where is he? And see, Job is right now, he's struggling with what's going on, right? He's struggling with what he's been presented with, right? He's been stripped of all of his liveliness, I guess we could call it. Not his life, but his wealth, his family, his personal wealth, his what he might term as a big family, right? And all of his workers, right? His maybe, I wouldn't say his power, but he had a lot of workers. He had a lot of probably influence in the area. I mean, these guys came out and said, hey, man, you did something really bad, right? His authority, right? He wasn't given this but by God, but it was all taken away, and he's struggling with that. And so he's asking these questions. As water disappears from a lake and a river dries parched and dry, so people lie down never to rise again. So he's getting pretty deep into thought right here. They will not wake up until the heavens are no more, and they will not stir from their sleep. And so we see here a little bit of more contrast of what God has blessed us with, and then how we make our exit, right? And he's drawing a comparison there. So Job felt that while there was a hope for a tree that had been cut down, there was no hope for a man who had been cut down. Again, different circumstances, right? He was showing and he was questioning what's going on. That's the big deal, what's going on right here. Because he understands something, and we're going to get to that part. He understands that life, as we know it right here on earth, has an end. But spiritually, he knew, again, what he was talking about, the real question of where am I to go after this? What is all this for? And sometimes we might find ourselves asking that. What is all this for? Again, going back to the beginning of the session there, the big question is, where do we go for comfort? Where do we go when we're feeling like what Job is going through right now? When we're going through so much turmoil, so much, maybe we have worries and anxiety, and these things are being built up, and we're just, sometimes it gets the best of us, and we just start thinking crazy. We start asking questions kind of like this, right? Maybe not so much deep thought about it, but we're saying, what is this all for, right? Where am I going with all this? And more importantly, what Job was trying to get at, what are you doing through this, right? And that's where he was going. He was going to the Lord. He was rushing to him. He was trying to find a hold to grab a hold of and hang on, because he knew he couldn't do it alone. He was trying to search for answers, and he was going to the right person. Sometimes we need to be reminded of that through this illustration, just like the illustrations that were painted for us, right? We need to think about it in God's terms. We need to try to see where God is in all this, what He has us doing, what He's taught us, what foundation He's built for us. That's a good we call it similarity too, about how much He takes care of a tree, right? He's given a tree the ability to try to hang on. He's also done the same for us. He's done more for us because He sent somebody. He didn't send anybody to die for the trees. He sent somebody to die for you. And there is a reason that we are going through some of the things that we go through. Again, I don't want to paint I don't want to candy coat any of it, because sometimes we might get ourselves there, kind of like what the friends were, the brothers, so to speak, were challenging Job in the first place. Well, you done something wrong. There's something. This doesn't just happen to nobody. There's a reason why. Yeah, there was a reason why. Satan wanted to test him. Satan wanted to tempt him. God allowed it to prove that He was in control, that He knew what was going on, and ultimately He strengthened Job enough to be able to last through that. He carried him through that. So how can this is a good question too. So now changing gears a little bit, right? Downshifting. I think of downshifting. How can believers go through Job-like circumstances without embracing Job-like despair? What can you do different than what Job is doing right here? Now, we said that he's questioning, but should he really be thinking about it down in the dumps? Now, we're not going to evaluate him. Obviously, he has strong faith. He has a good background and all that. But some of us, we might not do that. And some of us, we might need to think ahead a little bit, plan a little bit about how we might encounter some of these things. That's why it's important to really know and really vet what we're trying to do, not only with earth type stuff, but also with spiritual type stuff, with going to God and really ironing that out, really hashing that out. You see, Moses, he didn't jump the gun. He didn't just go on a whim. He had to had that conversation, that interaction with God, to prep him, to really strengthen him, to let him know that this was serious, right? Sometimes we don't do that. Sometimes we get caught up in what's going on, and different than Job, we might feel that, we're doing the right thing, and we might get down on ourselves because we're shown something different, right? And we might get down in the dumps on ourselves, but we have to remember, God has a plan. Maybe we're not on that plan. Maybe we have to scoot ourselves back a little bit. Maybe we have to bring ourselves back and re-educate ourselves to be able to get back on that good path, to be able to do what we want to do, maybe just a little bit different. Maybe we have to choose God's way about it. And God wouldn't want us having us to be... He never says that we need to be sad. We never need to be in despair, in disbelief, right? We never need to be in those situations. He tells us to look forward. Now, we might make mistakes, right? But that's on us. We don't need to get down on that, because again, maybe we missed the mark a little bit. Maybe we didn't hit the bullseye right away. Maybe we're over here a little bit. Maybe we need to scoot it back, right? There's no reason to get down on that. Again, we're human. We're not superior in any kind of way. We're not if you believe the scientists, right? We're on the same level as any other animal out there. But God's given us the ability to think. God's given us the ability to love. Animals don't really do any of that. Yeah, there's some that mate for life or whatever, but they don't consciously think about that. They don't consciously look out for a brother, look out for a sister when things are going bad. And again, that's what we're seeing here. That conflict between the brothers and Job, they're getting down on him, but he's not hearing any of it. Right? He's saying there's something more, there's something stronger. There's a reason God has me going through this. He's not losing that faith. Okay, so we're going to wrap up here on these last couple verses and really think about what's going on here. What's good in this part. So verse 13, it says, if only you would hide me in Sheol and conceal me until your anger passes. See, he's already recognized that God is behind this, that God is making him go through this, that God's allowing this to come to pass. But he has it wrong, right? He thinks he did something wrong, right? Again, getting down to the dumps, right? We don't need to be doing any of that. But he's asking the right questions. He has the right motivation. He wants to get past this. It says, and conceal me until your anger passes. If only you would appoint a time for me and then remember me. When a person dies, will he come back to life? If so, I would wait all the days of my struggle until my relief comes. And that right there is the culmination of these few verses, but also his faith. His faith in God that there is something better on the other side. There's something greater to come. And that's why he asked those questions. He understood that God was behind this. He may have not understood the reason, right? There's no point in the whole book where he understood that he was being tested. He was being tested by God and tempted by Satan. There's no point in there. He came to that realization, but he trusted God to see him through the whole ordeal. And at the end of it, that's what he was saying. Let's see here. Let's get to this. It says, I don't know how to phrase that into a question. It says, what did Job believe about death? It said, well, Sheol is the place of the dead. Oh, okay. And he believed at that point that life would end, right? Life would cease to exist for him. But he chose something better. He chose that God had a plan for him, right? Even though he wanted to be done with it, right? And that he knew that death would be the end of not only life as he knew it, but also the end of his suffering, right? And he's at a bad place, right? He's experiencing all these things, but he's at that point to where he's like, well, death would, he didn't, it never says that he was contemplating that, but it's what he was just realizing. Again, he's deep in thought. He's going over things and whatnot, but he's saying at least that would be the end of it. At least that would be where we could maybe get some relief. But that's where he goes on. And that's what we have as believers of the New Testament, of the New Covenant, that Jesus died to not only pay for our sins, but conquer death so that we all could have everlasting life. It says, while what Job said is true, life and death belong to God alone, so measures like suicide aren't an acceptable way out of suffering. When we emerge on the other side of suffering, we're able to share how God delivered us from our own hardship and bear witness to his power and comfort. And again, going back to that question, going back to the question that the Bible study author wants us to look at and maybe analyze a little bit, maybe contemplate a little bit. Where should we go for our comfort when we have times like this, when we're in turmoil, when we're in distress, when we're in the middle of a storm? Where do we go to find that comfort? Our answer should be God. Our answer should be Jesus. Our answer should be the Holy Spirit, to be able to hang on, to be able to trust that he has something better for us, to be able to look ahead at what is to come, to be able to anticipate, and this goes for all of us right now, to anticipate his arrival. To anticipate his arrival, right? We want to be in our best dress. We want to be ready to go at a moment's notice, right? When that trumpet calls, when everything happens, right? We want to be ready. We can't be ready if we're looking back. We can't be ready if we're down in the dumps and we're looking at our feet and we're worried about what's going on now. You see, God has something better in store for you. God has something good ahead of you. And it's encouraging to know that Job, he's realizing that. He's realizing that. And he said that. He said, if there's something better, I will wait for it. I will wait all the days of my struggle in anticipation for that something better. And see, he knew, well, he didn't know at the time, right? God may have revealed it to him a little bit. Prophecy, might have heard somewhere say something about it, but he was anticipating Jesus. He was anticipating that deliverer, that he wouldn't have to wait in Sheol. He wouldn't have to be removed from life forever, right? He wanted something better, and he was willing to wait on God for him to be delivered like that. And so that's a good passage to study, and good point for us to leave off from, and to be able to and to remind us that there's something better. We might be going through adversity. We might have even created that adversity. We might have even created those turmoils, those struggles, right? We might be responsible for that. But you know what? God has a plan for you. God has something better for you on the other side of that pain, that struggle. He has relief, and all you have to do is seek him. So where should we go for comfort during stressful times? We should go to God. And I want to remind you, we are live every Sunday, so tune in on Facebook, on YouTube, on Vimeo. We're live all over the place. I want to remind you as well, feel free to come and visit. We're open. Not Wednesday night, but Sunday morning. We start at 10 for Sunday school, and at 11 we start our main worship service. So we invite you out, and until next time.